Hi everyone, my name is Syed Abdul, working as assistant professor under TechCube 3 at Harcourt Butler Technical University, Kanpur. So we have started a new course that is food processing waste management, and in the previous lecture I have given introduction about the course and who are the various candidates who can take part in this course and what are the prerequisites for this course. In this lecture, we will start food processing waste management lecture 1. If you look at the contents of lecture, the contents are definition of food waste, status and impact of global and Indian food wastage on environment, and sources of food wastage. What are the different sources of food wastage? So we will try to define food waste. Before defining food waste, we must understand few terminologies. Out of them food, all of us may know what is food. Food can be defined as anything that can be consumed or swallowed so that the physiological requirements of the human body are met, right? FSSA has also defined food. You can find the definition on FSSA website. So food loss refers to food that unintentionally undergoes deterioration in quality or quantity as a result of food spills, spoils, bruising, wilting, or other such damage as a result of infrastructural limitations at the production, storage, processing, and distribution stages of the food life cycle. So, you may have seen large quantities of onions or potatoes have thrown onto the roads by the farmers. Lack of market or lack of proper storage facilities, or sometimes the produce may be damaged due to improper transport or improper packaging of the produce. So these all comes under food losses, right? Now if you define food waste means any food and inedible parts of the food removed from the food supply chain that can be recovered or disposed. So if you look at inedible parts of the food, so if you look at a pineapple, so the peel and core of the pineapple are inedible, so that also comes under food waste. So food waste means any food and inedible parts of the food removed from the supply chain that can be recovered or disposed. We can recover that product or use that product, or we can dispose. If you look at this includes food waste that is to be composted. You can compost that material. Spread to land, it can be spread in lands, treated through anaerobic digestion to produce biogas, combusted for bioenergy production, can be used as a fuel, or it can be incinerated, disposed to sewer, sent to landfill, dumped in open dumps, or discarded to sea. So all this type of food comes under food waste. Simply, if you want to define food waste is food losses occurring in the food supply chain. So food losses occurring at the end of the food chain, that is retail and final consumption, are the rather called food waste. Right? So as per definition, food waste are the masses of food wasted in the part of the food chains leading to edible products going to consumption. That means whatever the edible produce, excluding the inedible parts, we may process it or we may store it, we may transport from one location to other location. So whatever the damage is caused to the food and food makes that food inedible, calls comes under food waste. So therefore food that goes originally meant to human consumption but which gets out of the human food chain is considered as waste, even if it is then directed to a non-food use. So if you look at the status and impact of the food waste globally and in our country India, so food waste is a global problem according to United Nations FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. One third of the food produced for human consumption globally, which is about 1.6 billion tons per year, is lost or wasted. The cost of food waste globally is estimated around $2.6 trillion. The cost of food that is wasted around $2.6 trillion, of which $1 trillion is incurred from greenhouse gases. So you all know what are greenhouse gases. These gases are responsible for global warming. These gases include your carbon dioxide, methane, N2O, and other gases. So these gases are called greenhouse gases. So the food waste, these greenhouse gases generated as a result of the food waste are incurring around $1 trillion loss. Water scarcity, biodiversity loss, increased conflicts, and loss of livelihood due to issues such as soil erosion, nutrient loss, reduced yields, wind erosion, and pesticide exposure. These all are the impacts of food waste globally. So food waste accounts for 4.4 gigatons of the carbon dioxide equivalent per year. If you look at the carbon footprint of the waste globally in a year, around 4.4 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent, which represents 8% of global anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. So around 8% globally. In comparison, the overall emissions from China, USA, and India, if you look at 12.45% from China, 6.34% from USA, and 3 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year. So sorry, these are gigatons. 12.45 gigatons from China, 6.34 gigatons from USA, and 3 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year India. These are the impacts of food waste. Similarly, 1.4 billion hectares of land and 28% of the world's agriculture area is used annually to produce food that is lost or wasted. So in summary, you can say the global cost of food waste economically around $1 trillion, environmentally around $700 billion, social impact around $900 billion. So total $2.6 trillion of loss is caused by this global food waste. So this data is collected from Food and Agriculture Organization. So if you look at the Indian scenario, we all know India is the largest producer after China, as well as the largest populated country after China. In 2003, the government of India has announced that 22% of the Indian population lives below poverty line, and according to FAO, so FAO has released a report known as the State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World 2007. According to that report, around 190.7 million people are undernourished in India. So this represents around 14.5% of the population, which makes India the home to largest undernourished population in the world. It is estimated by the United Nations that nearly 40% of the food produced in India is wasted or lost, and this cost India 1 lakh crore rupees every year. So this is the loss incurred by the food, around 1 lakh crore rupees every year. Food wastage in India is happening at every level. If you look at from harvesting, you may have seen harvesting losses or post harvesting losses due to improper transporting facilities, proper processing capacities, packaging and consuming. Yes, you may have seen many of the packaged food which are expired are thrown or dumped during consuming at household or retail level. Also, there is loss of food waste. If you look at the wastage of cooked food, especially Indian weddings, events, restaurants, hotels, and houses are a major source of food wastage of cooked food. There are many organizations nowadays are working to collect this food and to distribute to the needy, even though it is not that much organized. If you look at the majority food wastage in India is caused before it is packaged, that is in processing sector. This is caused due to the loopholes in the transport and infrastructure system in India. So there is a huge lack of cold chain facilities in India as well as storage facilities responsible for the major post-harvest losses of the agriculture produce. So now the government has looked into this matter and started finding investments to develop better technology to reduce this wastage through MOFPA, Ministry of Food Processing Industries. We will discuss various sources of food wastage. So if you look at the main categories of food wastage: manufacturing, food services, wholesale and retail, and households. So these are the four categories from where you can say the food is wastage, right? So if you look at the manufacturing, in manufacturing, overproduction resulting from pressure to meet contractual requirements. Sometimes manufacturers, what they do to meet the requirements of the contracts, they will overproduce the produce, and they were unable to sell the produce within the shelf life of the produce, and the produce will goes as waste. Similarly, appearance quality standard for produce, they sometimes they produce deferred quality products which goes as waste, damaged products, cheap disposable alternatives, inedible parts of produce during processing. You may have seen, especially in fruits and vegetables, there is a lots of inedible parts produced like kernel, seed, peel, which goes as food waste. Food services. Food services includes restaurants, hotels, catering services, etc. So lack of flexibility in portion sizes. So there is no uniform portion sizes available for the products. If you go to any restaurant or hotel, the portion sizes varies from restaurant to restaurant and hotel to hotel. So most of the time, many people left foods at hotels, leave food at hotels and restaurants. Insufficient planning in forecasting and ordering ingredients. So even in catering malls as well as hotels and restaurants, so because of the change in atmospheric conditions as well as lack of planning, they tend to procure the agriculture produce which are perishable in large quantities, and some of the agriculture produce is thrown as waste because of unavailability of the customers. Consumer attitude towards taking leftovers home. So there is lack of attitude to take the leftovers to home in the Indian consumers, that also causing waste. Refused food due to non-meeting customer preferences. Sometimes the food prepared in caterings, restaurants as well as hotels um, is not up to the consumer expects what consumer expects. So it goes as waste. Wholesale and retail. So in wholesale and retail market also, due to the lack of the proper transportation facilities and the changes in temperature leading to spoilage of the agriculture produce as well as packaged food, aesthetic standards expected by the consumers and retailers, packaging defects making produce not fit for sale during transportation, transportation or moving of the goods from wholesale market to the retail market. There may be damages that may cause food waste, oversupply due to consumer choices, overstocking due to poor planning, and excess surplus by the wholesalers and the retailers. If you look at the households, buying too much due to poor planning. So we often do at homes purchase large quantity of vegetables which goes as waste, bad storage resulting from lack of awareness. So the households who don't have proper awareness how to store particular commodity, either packed food or fresh agriculture produce, confusion over freshness and safety labels, discarding edible parts of produce like bread cuts or apple peels, discarding leftovers. Large portion sizes which we prepare at home sometimes are discarded. So these are the various sources of food wastage and the impact of the food waste globally as well as in Indian scenario. So we have come to the end of our lecture 1. So if there are any queries during the deliberation of this course, you can contact through mail or my contact number which will be provided with the course material.